no nudity.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. I'm Saeed Khan, broadcasting from a rather cold Detroit, but I guess that's probably indistinguishable from a good part of the country where apparently 230 million Americans are going to be experiencing some kind of serious decline in temperature and also in climatological conditions, including ice, including freezing rain, and of course also a whole lot of snow and wind. Some of you may be immune, but you're probably waking up right now in California. Sorry, Joel, had to mention that state. I know you're back from there. But then, of course, we do have some people who are well ensconced. All they have to do is dodge falling iguanas, right, Alan? But
That's right.
That 250 million, about 180 million have no idea how to drive in this. So it's going to be really interesting.
This is very true.
The Detroit area.
This is also true, but it looks like we have two of our three lawyers might be in hibernation today, but hopefully they'll join us later. But we are joined by Joel Sklar, who recharged his batteries in California last month. Mm-hmm. Yes. just like those iguanas, right? I mean, you just have to sit out there in the sun and warm up the body. There you go. We're also joined by public relations.
Let me give a quick shout out to I'm down here for college reunion and the Bertram Street Boys. We're all down here hanging out in the warm weather.
Were they ever once a boy band? Were they ever once a boy band? Yeah. Not to be confused with the Seinfeld gang, the Van Buren Boys. Absolutely. We are also joined with a red-hatted or millenaried Bill Seikaly. What's the hat say?
Make Obama president again.
Oh.
Okay. We've got Mopa in the house. We also have public relations specialist and former Detroit Free Press reporter Darci McConnell. We've got labor and community activists taking the center square today, Barb Ingalls. We've got veteran journalist Nancy Derringer, and broadcasting on behalf of the Bertram Boys down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida today, we've got Allan Lengel. Well,
what, you couldn't handle the cold here, Alan? What the hell?
Yeah. You know, the Uber driver told me, he goes, everybody's coming down here this week.
The peninsula is going to fall off the U.S.
Clearly, Bill, you're not familiar with the freezing point of borscht. So there is, of course, this migration down to the south. Well, it looks like we have, of course, one fewer member of the American family. Maybe he's flying back now, who knows? But President Donald Trump was in Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Forum, mere hours after having attended the college football national championship, rooting on the University of Miami Hurricanes on their home field. And guess what? They lost to the Indiana Hoosiers. What a fantastic game, I must say. It was just a really, really gripping game. But anyways, over in Davos at the WEF, the president gave a 105-minute, and I will use the term, and it's a very generic and charitable and generous term, speech to what turned out to be, of course, a global audience as well. And I believe, Alan, we might have some video.
Today, Trump spoke at the World Economic Forum in Davos in Switzerland, and he wasted no time confirming that his brain real broke, because here's what happened. When the president tried to talk about the territory he wants to grab, which is, again, Greenland.
I'm helping Europe, I'm helping NATO, and I've until the last few days when I told them about Iceland, they loved me.
a president had been this addled since Reagan at the Berlin Wall.
Mr. Gorbachev, I am in France.
Hey, we are now joined with our non-hibernating third lawyer, Steve Fishman. Way to be there, Steve. Well, I mean, I do, we must be balanced and we must be charitable on the show. I do believe that please humor me, Nancy. I do believe that his audience of under 1,000 people at Davos is still going to be more than those who attend the Melania Trump movie at the theater. So, when you're looking at relative terms, there's always some good news, except apparently Jeff Bezos is now himself pumping in $35 million to try to prop up numbers and get people to the theater before it's going to be streaming.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. It's supposed to have a box office opening weekend of $5 million.
If you pay any attention to the movie business at all, not just movies, but the business, you know that anything that opens after the first of the year and until Oscars is always shit. And you should always keep that in mind when you're deciding whether you want to see a new movie out. It's better to put off the Christmas movies and see them as they linger into January than to go to see, because that's the dumping ground. That's where they put all the crap. And the fact that Melania is coming out this week is something. Sorry.
I think they released it this week, Nancy, so she'll be eligible for next year's new category of best plagiarized screenplay. So let's see how that plays out. Anyway, Davos. Did anybody by any chance hear Prime Minister Carney of Canada, his speech? I actually thought it was up there with Kennedy's 1961 speech in Berlin.
I read it because it was delivered in French, and I don't speak French, but I read the text of it. It was amazing. It was excellent.
Well, then he would have only been half a Canadian, because I thought all Canadian prime ministers must be bilingual and address it twice.
They are bilingual, but I was the text I found said it was originally delivered in French, so I just read
this. This is what happens when you don't pay for full cable, Nancy. Okay. So, but thoughts about the speech. I mean, and of course juxtaposing it to Trump's speech slash campaign speech. Steve.
It seems to me that not just Carney, but everybody else is there have been a lot of really good articles about it. I think that they have all awakened to the fact that, who are we kidding? The guy is what we've been describing on this show for 10 years. They know that there's nothing to be gained by kissing his butt and doing all the stuff that they had kind of tried to do. And I think Carney was the leader of it. But, the French Macron, I thought was good as well. And I think both the German and the British guys have been a little bit suspicious of the guy to begin with. But finally, everybody woke up and realized, hey, this is a criminal we're dealing with. He has a criminal mind, so we have to treat him like that. And I was really impressed. I did not know, Nance, because I read it online. I didn't know he spoke in French. I found the CBC, found it on the CBC site, and that was the note at the top.
Well, I read it, Nancy, in its original Klingon. Allan, I think we've got video of people in Norway who, if we remember, as Steve said, we've been following this guy for 10 years. 10 years ago, he was actively recruiting people from Norway to immigrate to the United States. And
a few months ago, I traveled to Oslo, Norway, to see how Europeans felt about our president and his quest of not peace.
Honestly, I'm just happy that I'm not living in the USA. Most people that I talk to don't want to go there anymore.
We just want to boycott the USA right now.
I have lost very much respect for America after they continue to support Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time he was elected, I was like, they will never elect him. And they still did. And I was very surprised then, and I'm equally surprised now.
No. That's downtown Oslo, folks. I mean, it is teeming with people. Anyway, Bill.
Yeah, I want to chime in with what Steve said. I think he's right. People are finally, I don't know that they're waking up. I think they've known this all along, Steve. I think you'd agree. But they are finally realizing that kissing the ring, bowing, trying to compromise, all those things just simply don't work.
Now the question is, will anyone in the United States do that, and particularly the Congress and the Supreme Court? I mean, we've set up a perfect storm here. We're constitutional crisis gets thrown around a lot, but I think that clearly we're seeing what's going on. We pass and he signs this Epstein bill to release all the files. He just ignores it. He just ignores it. And why can he get away with that? Because the Supreme Court's already told him you're immune from any prosecution. You're immune from any consequence of this. And with the broad pardon powers you have, if anybody goes after anybody who did it on your behalf, you get to pardon them. We're in a serious constitutional crisis. And the question is, will the Supreme Court and the legislative branch now do what the European leaders have finally done, and that's grow some kahunas?
Joel.
It seems to me that the Europeans now acknowledge that he's insane, he's a mad king, and they acknowledge that I heard one of the I think Norwegian officials say he has the mind of a rapist. He just wants to take you by force. And I think that acknowledgement, that recognition is having concrete effects. Canada's going to sell to China. They'll sell to some other recipient. Somebody else will pay for their goods, and we are getting isolated. We have imposed, and Trump has now tied everything together, a self-imposed embargo, where our reality is not accepted by the world, and the world is going to act as reality dictates. We will become smaller. We will become less powerful. We are far less safe today than we were yesterday, and it's going to grow exponentially. And I think what Carney did is what leaders should do: call it out for what it is, realize that the old order is dead. America, as people knew it, is dead. It's going to take generations, if ever, to rebuild. And I think that acknowledgement is stark. The world is going to move on without us. And we may be left to get our way out of this own cesspool, and God knows if we do. Yeah. So I think it was really quite stark and dramatic. This man is fucking nuts. There was a wonderful article in the New York Times about how crazy he is. And he has gone way, way, there are no guardrails because his reality is his reality alone. And now everybody, it's crazy. So
here we have the video talking about people standing up to Trump.
The Republicans on the committee used their time to try to discredit Jack Smith on behalf of their overlord, to the point where Congressman Eric Swalwell just had enough.
These guys are so lucky they're not under oath, because they would have to tell you what they really think of Trump. They call him crooked. They call him cruel. They call him a scumbag. I've heard you all say it. You're lucky you're not under Trump, but when the lights go on and the cameras are on, you're tiny, you're small, you shrink. These guys, our Republican colleagues, are a joke.
You know what? They are cute when they're little.
Well, on that point, Darcy, I mean, you've got these enablers, you've got his geishas in Congress, but then you also have these people in the White House. I mean, here you had Catherine Leavitt, his perennial press secretary, saying, "Don't believe your lying eyes, don't believe your lying ears." He makes all these mistakes in the speech. He confuses Iceland for Greenland, and she's saying, "No, you didn't hear what you think you heard." And then you've got these excuses that he has this big old bruise on his left hand, which looks like it's growing to the point of Queen Elizabeth II's, which that photo of hers was taken 2 days before she died. Just saying. But here you've got the excuse. Here you got the excuse of that the White House is putting out there, saying, "Oh, he bumped his hand on the table during the Board of Peace treaty signing, and that's how he got it." I mean, they're just making stuff up. And I guess the question I've got for everybody is, 35% of this country either believes it or looks beyond that and approves of what he's doing.
Well, you got to remember, first of all, that the figure I heard after the election was 12% of the population gets their information from paid subscription sources, which we would consider traditional media. So that means 88% people are getting information from probably largely not credible sources. And also we are in our silos, right? So we may only be listening to a Fox News or to an NPR. So that keeps us from being really educated about what's really going on. But he also reinforces over and over again that message from day one, that stuff is fake, stuff is made up. And there are people that start just going down the rabbit hole. And there are people who turn into full-blown conspiracy theorists that sort of get turned, as we say. So I think that's why he continues to do that. However, I think we had talked about this before at the start of his administration's second term, the drip drip. And I think we've continued to see the drip drip in terms of people who were saying, he didn't follow through on this promise. The Epstein files, take your pick. So I think he's been damaged. And finally, I just wanted to mention too, that we have had at least a decent amount of success on the lawsuit regard. So this is my half full progress report.
Well, Nancy.
I just want to echo what Darci said. She's absolutely right. And, the collapse of so-called mainstream journalism could not be happening at a worse time because, like you said, most people don't subscribe. They don't spend the money to subscribe to legitimate publications that are staffed by people who know what they're doing and are honest. And I'll give you a lighthearted example, which is very timely right now. I don't know how many of you spend any time on social media, but you may have seen that we're supposed to have exploding trees this week because the temperature is falling so quickly and it's going to, somehow the trees are going to explode. I just for the hell of it, I traced a few of these exploding trees stories. They all go back to one guy on the internet who calls himself a meteorologist without giving any credential that he's actually qualified to be a meteorologist. And he goes by the name Max Velocity. So that should give you an idea like how bullshit spreads, it's like, and people, they don't, this is a trivial thing. No trees are going to explode. But people talk about this in the checkout, like, oh, did you hear? They are saying that the trees are going to explode. And, extrapolate that out to actual important real news. And that's where it gets really dangerous. So that's
remember how this used to start in the grocery line. It used to be the National Enquirer, which then, of course, became one of the staunchest defenders of who? Donald Trump. But by the way, Nancy, I just want to let you know I do pay for my subscription to the Grosse Pointe Pravda. So okay, Bill.
Yeah, I agree with what both Darci and Nancy said, but I want to come back to this. First of all, the collapse of mainstream media didn't just happen and give us Trump. Trump went after mainstream media. Trump and the MAGA crowd had a lot to do. I mean, there were other factors, but they had a lot to do with the destruction of mainstream media. It didn't happen in isolation.
Well, that's true, but I think the bigger story is the reason mainstream media collapsed. I mean, it started with Craigslist, for God's sake. When you take away classified ads, and go ahead.
Yeah, no, look, I agree. My second point is to link what you guys said with what Joel said earlier. This is not going to turn around, even if the next elections give us a Democratic House and Senate. Not likely to give us the Senate, but even if it did that, it's not likely to turn around very quickly because the rest of the world looks at us and says, it's not just Donald Trump.
Right.
Darci had it right. Over a third of the country still follows this son of a bitch.
Yep.
And what does that mean for the rest of the world? We, not Trump, we, the American people, cannot be trusted.
Right.
Well, that and the fact that he won't enforce the laws that even if they are passed to go ahead and curb him. So I'm sorry, Barb.
The mainstream media, when Trump went after them, turned and I'm not talking about reporters who are solid people that know what they're doing and they're doing their very best. But when the New York Times this week does a story on how nuts Trump is, it's like, really? Oh my gosh, brand new news. How'd you notice? And I'm not blaming the reporters. It's the people that sit in the seat that are the same people in the law firms that bent over and ran, the same people in the universities that bent over and ran, are our institutions failed us, and it's not just the mainstream media.
Not only bent over and ran, funded his activities. That's
threw cash behind them as they took off. So what are you going to do?
Barb, you know the Elton John song "Leave On." This is a reversal. This is now God declaring the New York Times is dead. So.
Well, as recently as last week, sorry, Alan, I'll just get to it. They were doing yet the 10,000th Cletus safari up to some shithole town in northern Minnesota, 2 hours out of Minneapolis, where people are not at all sure that those Minneapolis people are doing the right thing by going out after those those ICE agents. And it's like, how many times? When was the last time? Every clue is giving us is telling us that the Democrats are headed for like a big victory in November. Now, I don't want to jinx anything, but I mean we've heard all. I mean every election that's been held in the last year, the Democrats are overperforming, whether they win or not. They're getting more points or they're getting more votes than they would have been expected to get in a normal year. Has anybody seen a New York Times reporter hanging out at the places where we go and trying to talk to us and say, how do you feel about all of this? Regular American? No, they're still on these, they're still going out to find the yahoos at the local diner. Sorry, Alan, go ahead.
Alan. That's right. That's right. I was going to say, we've seen the changes in the media really in the beginning of the first term of Trump. You could see on like MSNBC or whatever, you'd have like reporters like Peter Baker who were trying to be polite and say, well, I think what the president's saying might not be totally truthful, or there may be some facts that he didn't quite get right. And then it slowly progressed to like, he's lying again. And, people saw that as bias, but is that bias or is that
truth?
Just clarifying what, stop messing around with all these like, going around the block to say he's lying. And, just what we're seeing, in particular, I follow the Justice Department and the FBI fairly closely, and just seeing the flock of agents and prosecutors are either being fired or thrown out. And, when Jack Smith, who's like, I mean, super clean, super straight, just the facts, ma'am, the Jack Webb of, the Justice Department. And he is, and Trump is putting, a True Social saying this man needs to be investigated and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And, it's a wink to the Justice Department. He'll say, I didn't talk to the Justice Department. They'll be like, hey, we found that Jack Smith might have had a discrepancy in one of the things he said. We're going to indict him for lying to Congress or whatever. I mean, just what's happening, the Justice Department, I mean, they have two really weak human beings leading the FBI and the Justice Department. And it's such a disservice to American people. It's a disservice to a lot of the people who work for those organizations.
Well, this is what's happening.
Even if we get a Democrat back, once we get rid of Trump, what are we going to end up with? The people who are left in our institutions are not the kind of people you want to rely on to bring back integrity to those institutions.
That was one of the best lines in Carney's speech, was he said that, that's done. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but that world is over.
Right.
And what we do now is remains to be seen. I mean, how do we put it back? How do we come back from this? And I mean, we're gonna, I believe that we will take the House. I would like to know where they've been through all of the. I mean, the silence of our allies is in government in the United States is louder than these damn people. Mm-hmm. And the only resistance is in the streets, and now we're beginning to be demonized. Because people went into a MAGA church.
Who cares?
I know, but that's the story. It's so stupid. And I was listening to NPR. I'm driving across Michigan yesterday, and I'm listening to NPR, and it's like, I have to find some music because I can't listen to this shit anymore. And those people fucking know better.
Wasn't it a mega church, or is there no difference now? Anyway,
when gay men invaded St. Patrick's Cathedral during Mass during the peak of the AIDS crisis, and everybody was like, "Ooh, you can't do that." Ooh, but it's like at this point, they'll go into a synagogue and shoot it up, but we're supposed to be polite and wait for them to finish worshiping the Lord before we get in their face. I'd be. Go ahead.
Just in terms of manipulating the facts and stuff like that, I had a story which apparently nobody caught, but the Justice Department has filed a lawsuit against the state of Michigan for cage-free eggs, saying basically that you can't regulate cage-free eggs that are coming from out of state into Michigan, and that therefore the judge should invalidate the law. So here is Trump in Davos, his speech on Wednesday, and here's a sentence from the lawsuit. First, this is Trump saying, "I've come this year to the World Economic Forum with truly phenomenal news from America. Yesterday marked the 1-year anniversary of my inauguration, and today, after 12 months back in the White House, our economy is booming. Growth is exploding. Productivity is surging. Investment is soaring. Incomes are rising. Inflation has been defeated." Now, here in the lawsuit about the cage-free eggs, his Justice Department filed and said, "The United States is facing a serious and sustained cost of living crisis." and I think I was the only one who picked up on that little difference there, but it's insane how they twist the facts and.
You're not suggesting any hypocrisy, are you, Evan?
Oh, no. Just a failure to understand the facts.
It's only that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is saying.
I'll be going, "Why did you file that, you idiot?"
Well, on that topic about the media, I mean, we have CBS now in the hands of Barry Weiss and the Ellison father and son combo. And there was, of course, Tony Dokoupil, the new anchor over at CBS Evening News, handpicked by Barry Weiss, comes to Detroit while Trump is here and conducts an interview of sorts. And the president threatens CBS if they edit any part of the interview. I thought that even a little bit of casual editing has to happen in case there's tweaks or burps or whatever's going on. But this kind of strong arming, and then of course the bigger story, the capitulation by CBS in doing this. I mean, for those of you who are from the pantheon of journalism, I mean, is this unprecedented, Alan?
I think it is unprecedented. It's outrageous. Look, I mean, if I were CBS, I would, if you were airing some on the nightly broadcast, you might air a snippet and say, if you want to see the full interview, there's nothing wrong with that. But that should be up to CBS. That is not the job of a person who's being interviewed to say, you better run the whole thing. It's like when we quote people in stories, we can't possibly include every quote when you do a 45-minute interview, or even a 10-minute interview on the street. You may not use all the stuff, and nobody can say you better use all my words or fuck you, I'm coming after you. It's like, it's outrageous, and there's no legal foundation for suing.
Steve,
I have a side question for our journalists. I hear exactly what Alan's saying, and I agree with you when you're talking about a 45-minute interview, but I can tell you when people ask me for comment, and it happened this week in a case of mine that happened to be in the newspaper, I email the comment, and if it's 3 sentences, I say either include all 3 sentences or just say I didn't comment. You guys see anything wrong with that?
That's fair. No, that's fair. You can have that condition. I mean, Trump could have said, look, I'm not giving you an interview if you're not going to run the whole thing. And they have the choice on that. You can do that. I don't think I have any problem with that,
3 sentences plus, it's not, I mean, it's nothing. Yeah. I mean, as a reporter, there's always those people who will accuse you of oversimplifying or whatever. And it's like, and a lot of times they're academics and they believe that if you don't start with, first the earth cooled and, that you're somehow giving them short shrift. But I mean,
And then the Arabs came with their Mercedes Benzes. Isn't that the whole line from Airplane?
Nance, I don't think anybody confuses me with an academic. So
no, I don't think so. I think that's fair.
I don't know, Steve. Your meditation a couple of weeks ago on providing sort of the legal thing, that was professorial. That was truly amazing. Yeah,
It really was.
My prediction for Tony Dokapil is that when this is all said and done, and he's the last person left when the music stops without a chair, and when CBS's ratings go, I think he's going to get a job as one of those people on Deal or No Deal who opens the boxes. So that I see to be in his future. Alan, let's go to a quick commercial.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabria, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
So we were talking about Canada's Prime Minister Carney, or Le Prime Minister for Nancy, who went ahead and talked about that we are now entering a new order. The old world order is done. President Trump, as a side event at Davos, put together his Board of Peace for Gaza, which includes leaders from the following countries: Azerbaijan, Bulgaria, Hungary, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Kosovo, Pakistan, Paraguay, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, UAE, Uzbekistan, Mongolia, Jordan, Bahrain, Morocco, Argentina, and Armenia, each supposedly paying $1 billion. And by the way, the president sent a letter to Prime Minister Carney disinviting him. With the same shame as when Marsha went ahead and disinvited one of her friends to her slumber party on the Brady Bunch. But this idea of creating a bizarro world mini United Nations on a single issue of Gaza, which last time I checked didn't border Paraguay. Or
Uzbekistan,
or a lot of the countries that are involved. I mean, this is the kind of foreign policy that it seems that the United States is now trying to lead, to the point where our NATO allies now are, as we have seen, feeling under threat regarding Greenland. But at the same time, at Davos, it seems the president has retracted from the idea of military force, which, although the speech was on a Wednesday, it might have been Taco Tuesday, taco, of course, being Trump again, chickens out. Where is the terra firma when it comes to our allies? And Bill, you're like shaking your head saying, what allies?
There is none. There's no terra firma. There is no ground, there is no base on which you can rely on Trump standing. The worst, it gets a lot worse than the absurdity you've already pointed out about this Commission of Peace, whatever he's called.
Board of Peace.
Board of Peace. Who's the chairperson?
Presumably.
No, it's not presumably. He announced it. It's him. And it's not like everybody gets to vote on what they're going to do with all this money, all these billions of dollars. They can advise Trump, but he gets to be the decider.
I bet he keeps the money too.
So fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, everything's
I doubt Uzbekistan is coughing up $1 billion, but
they've got Jared Kushner talking about the plan and how they're going to turn this into the Gaza into this elaborate thing, probably hotels and everything. It's going to be the epicenter.
No Palestinians are supposed to be
100 and something skyscrapers, and Kushner announced that they've already started clearing the rubble. But of course, what they're also clearing is evidence, because with the rubble are thousands of people who've been killed, some buried alive, who are there. So, and again, I think it goes back to the fact that the media is just simply dancing past this yet again. But what about media?
I have Kushner moves on Gaza redevelopment on my bingo card. Do I get to cross that one off?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I've already got 4 squares going now. It's great. I'm gonna be a bingo by May. So
and January's not even over.
Yeah.
But on the bigger theme about media coverage, I mean, we've got what's been going on in Minneapolis. A federal judge has barred ICE from arresting and detaining peaceful protesters. I don't think that is being honored or enforced or abided by ICE. We have, of course, also this week talk about the Pentagon preparing 2 infantry battalions from Alaska to move on and to be deployed in Minnesota to protect ICE agents in case it gets to that point. A 5-year-old boy, Liam Ramos, looks like was used as a human shield or bait in order to capture his father. Vice President Vance swoops into Minneapolis and says, "Oh, well, I've got a 5-year-old too." By the way, he and Usha are apparently expecting a baby couch this summer.
But
I think by surrogacy, I don't think Usha would have the couch. But the fact that they're saying that, well, we took the kid because we didn't want him to be out there in the cold, despite the fact that he was in front of his own house and his mother was home.
And that's why they sent him to Texas too.
And that's why they had to send him to Texas to get out of the cold, which, by the way, now Texas is going to get an inch of ice. So I don't know how that goes. And we also hear, of course, about the criminal investigations. As Alan said before, you've got FBI, you've got the DOJ, you've got Kash Patel, you've got Pam Bondi. Criminal investigations of Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, criminal investigations against Governor Tim Walz, criminal investigation against Attorney General Keith Ellison, all as an attempt to go ahead and intimidate, to create a chilling effect. Minneapolis has sort of become now the epicenter of the erosion of American civil rights again.
Absolutely.
Steve.
The good news is none of those 3 people are going to fold underneath it. They're all going to stand up to it. You mentioned the courts. The courts have done a lot of good things preliminarily, but what I want to see, and I really wish they would start doing it, and I wish they would do it quickly, when their decisions, when their rulings are disobeyed, bring somebody in, charge them with contempt, and lock the son of a bitch up. That's the only way you can get these people's attention. They're criminals. Keep this in mind. You can only get their attention by treating them like what they are. So when that judge issues that order, the next time something happens, which will be in 15 minutes after the order is issued, get somebody, the head of ICE, whoever, and bring them in front of the court and say, look, it's on you, and you're going to jail right now until all this shit stops. I really seriously think those of us who've been in the criminal courts or in the civil courts, when you get held in contempt of court, it ain't no fun. Right. And particularly if it's contempt that's requiring you to do something or to stop doing something. Because as long as you continue to do what you're doing or you refuse to do what you're ordered to do, you can keep your butt in jail. And I really think that the courts have done a lot of good things, but they're still relying on these people behaving like regular citizens. They're not recognizing that they're criminals and they have criminal minds. So treat them just like you would treat some guy who's in there for homicide. And just tell them this is the way it's going to be.
Well, you have Trump's Border Patrol cosplay Nazi, Greg Bovino, showing up there in Minneapolis and crying about the fact that his ICE agents can't use the restrooms of restaurants and other public facilities. So you got that. Joel.
It seems like, what's happening now is the federal government, ICE, is occupying Minneapolis. This is the federal government that's occupying a city that's using force against American citizens. This is a terrifying development. This is something that we can't get, used to. This is not a new normal. This is brown shirts. This is how things happen. These are thugs. ISIS, the agents are thugs. They act like thugs. So this is an entire. This is what drives me nuts. The conservatives are big on states' rights, huge. I just can't imagine what would happen if a Democratic president put the military or put federal agents, 3,500, 2,500 in, somewhere in Montgomery, Alabama.
Yeah.
I think it's insane.
Miami, Florida.
They'd be shooting. They'd be shooting at them.
They'd be shooting at them. It'd be violent. If you don't tread on me, my Second Amendment rights, this is what it's for, and there would be more violence.
Right.
This is what it shows. And this is a break. This is a threshold watershed type of moment. When you have this, I don't think we're appreciating it yet because we're in the moment. But my God, a woman was murdered. Other people are getting beaten. Other people are dying in ICE custody. What's happening is horrific. And I don't think we can acknowledge it yet because we're in the midst of it.
Yeah. Darcy.
Well, so and as I think it was Fishman who told us how little training these folks have, not to mention that they are masked. So I just wanted to bring one little bit of positive news for Michigan. There's Senate Bill 510 that would disallow people from being masked in law enforcement. They make some small exceptions, but at least at the legislative level in Michigan legislature, they're trying to do something to impact that cloak that they have.
That is good.
Bill.
Yeah, I want to echo what Joel said, and I'm not very optimistic today, as you probably could tell. Here's the little bit of optimism that I have. It is well below zero in Minneapolis. It is snowy in Minneapolis. And yet people who have no direct obligation to do so, no direct connection with this, school teachers, workers, all kinds of people are out on the street. And I think that may be the biggest turnaround that we've had. This is, I think, much like when people took to the streets in the 60s to protest the war in Vietnam. When people are willing, people who are not directly impacted, thank you.
You have to.
People are directly impacted by what's going who are not directly impacted by what's going on, are willing to get out on the street and fight for this kind of against this kind of injustice.
Right.
That speaks well for those people.
Yeah, I
Barb.
agree.
And there's more every day. There's more coming out there every day. But again, on the same report I listened to on NPR yesterday, they had the mayor of St. Paul, who is Hmong. And she came over, her parents were sent over when they were impacted by the war in Vietnam, by all of that. And they were making these stories about all these people, and now they're starting to throw things. And they're doing all this, and we have to focus on the fact that the protesters have been overwhelmingly peaceful. Mm-hmm. They've been neighbors. The women, the people that were out there when Renee Good was slaughtered were her neighbors. Mm-hmm. And if things do get more violent, what are you? I'm not justifying it, but what are people supposed to do? This is going to get a whole lot worse. Yeah. And I'm afraid of the coverage turning into that instead of how many times do you have to get punched in the face before you hit back? How many times? Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you really want to scare yourself at 3 a.m. and stare at the ceiling, say there is a blue wave in the midterms, and say in 2 more years, there's a Democratic president, and they disband ICE. Okay, we defund it. Where are those guys going to go? They will become essentially a shadow army of January 6ers and Proud Boys, and what. They're not.
That's who they are already, though.
Yeah, exactly. They just won't have the cover of government to do this stuff. The one thing, essentially the MAGA private goon army, and we're gonna have to. It's like it's no longer defund ICE. It's defund ICE and prosecute ICE, because the people who are. Did you see the picture on the cover of the Star Tribune today a person is being arrested, is being held down on the ground with their hands behind their back by I don't know how many cops, and another one is standing there spraying directly into that person's face some sort of gas or tear gas or irritant, whatever it is. It's like
all gratuitous.
On what planet is that acceptable law enforcement behavior?
It's all gratuitous.
That's exactly what happened to Benny Solomon, Alan, if you remember, is that they held him down, they tore his rotator cuffs, and they blinded him with pepper sprays. And this is a man that goes into a room with lights and he has to put on sunglasses. This is full warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Well, MAGA right now, a lot of places online are showing that MAGA is going after what they call white, suburban, progressive, or liberal women,
right?
Like Renee Good. And you've got people like Pete Hegseth, who couldn't, the Department of Defense Secretary, who couldn't answer a question about whether he believed that the 19th Amendment is a valid amendment, the rights for women to vote. There are preachers, there are pastors, there are others within the MAGA cosmology who literally want to take away not just women's reproductive rights, but they also want to take away the right to vote. So this is, I suppose,
or they want to give them extra votes if they have 5 children. You know, then you get, you know, because
isn't that what Lani Guinier wrote in her law school law review article way back, talking about block voting?
Well, you are going deep. Lani Guinier, man. I haven't thought about her for 20 years.
Well, you know, damn well good somebody has. you want to go Zoe Baird too for extra points, Alex?
Wow.
All right. Well, we've got a bit of an update to this from when I first posted it as a possible topic, and that is the newly elected Detroit Police Commissioner Darius Morris had initially announced his resignation, and apparently now through his attorneys he's like, psych, and he's going to stay on the job. What do we know about Darius Morris?
He's had problems with the law. He was involved in some scams. He's been, and then he got pushed back from the police department for publicly saying some very anti-police things. I don't know. Then he said he's going to quit. The prosecutor said they're going to file charges. Now they said they're not going to refile charges on felon in possession. Look, Beverly Watts was elected to the commission, which is great. But some of the people, there weren't people who were candidates, so they did all these people doing write-ins. Nobody, look, we don't even, judges are running. A lot of people have no clue who to vote for when it comes to a judge. And some of the lower, even the council members, and it's frightening.
Isn't that how we got Sri Tanadar?
He spent a lot of money. That's how we got Sri Tanadar.
In 2023, Morris allegedly threatened to shoot a Warren police officer. So, I mean, he seems to have a bit of a paper trail of chaos going. But with him now retracting his resignation, I guess former mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, is probably going to have to be in a holding pattern a bit longer. I mean, because wasn't he looking for a new job himself?
Yes.
Speaking of being in a bit of trouble, it looks like Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald, who, of course, very famously was involved in the Crumbley case up in Oxford, Michigan, is facing some misconduct allegations with a complaint in front of the Michigan Attorney Grievance Commission. Anything on that?
I'd be curious what the lawyers have to say. It's let's see, included.
It sounded like part of it was that she, leveraged that case for her own gain, acclaim. That's part of the complaint anyway.
Yeah, here's a paragraph. It says McDonald won those convictions by fostering a must-win environment, included misconduct of all sorts, including withholding evidence from the defense. In this case, proffer agreements that protected 2 key witnesses who testified against the Crumbleys, using press conferences, media interviews, and a public relations firm to allegedly prejudice the defendant early on, and it goes on and on.
Who filed a grievance?
Isn't that what Terry Darden and Marsha Clark did back in the OJ case? I mean, isn't that what all prosecutors do in these big cases? So, no, okay, I guess.
I'm going to let Steve go on that one
Yeah.
because he brought up the criminal cases. But go ahead, I have something to say.
Hold on, he's on mute. You're on mute, Steve. There you go.
There you go.
So all prosecutors.
Suspense.
All prosecutors.
Precipice
Media.
Go ahead. Try again.
You got me? You can
Yeah,
hear me?
you're on.
Okay.
Go.
I wouldn't say that this is something that all prosecutors do. It depends on whether or not the things are true. If it's true that she was, quote, weaponizing the media to try to keep the kid from getting a fair trial, that's not something all prosecutors are supposed to do. Having said that, all of our viewers should understand anybody can file a grievance. Okay. I mean, all of us have had them, I'm sure. And you don't have to necessarily have anything that really is something that anybody's going to do anything about. So I think the best thing to do in this situation is to sit and see what happens, because they're allegations. That's what they are. And it appears from some of the filings that the appellate lawyer did in the Crumbley case that there's some substance to some of that. But I think we got to sit tight and just see where it all goes. That's my suggestion.
Oh man, we're gonna have to wait. Okay, Steve. Bill.
Yeah, I agree with Steve. We are going to have to sit and wait. But I've read the complaint. I want to say a couple things about it. First of all, I regret saying this, but it's true. Fact is that the commission generally doesn't act unless somebody is really an embarrassment to the profession. I mean, you got to do something really bad to get anything to really happen. That's my first comment. Secondly, and I live in Oakland County. I hope I don't get stopped in the next couple of weeks. Sure. But I think what's really interesting are the people who signed on to this grievance. There are some real heavy hitters in our profession who have signed on to this agreement. I mean, to this complaint. And I think that may well get it. It may well be taken more seriously as a result of it. I do encourage people to read it. It is not what you want to see happening. If any of these allegations are true, that she had media people embedded in her office, it's not the kind of thing you want to see happen if you're ever the victim of a criminal prosecution.
Hypothetically, Bill, if this complaint then proves to be adjudicated and goes against her, would that be grounds for calling for new trials for the Crumbley parents and even for Ethan Crumbley himself?
Well, unfortunately, here's my experience, because I have, on behalf of clients, filed a bunch of these grievances. And one of the things I tell these people is wait until the criminal stuff's over, because oftentimes what will happen is the commission itself will sit on it, not wanting to interfere with the criminal prosecution. So I predict that they will not act until all the appeals have run. I think I'll leave this for Steve because it's the criminal realm. I think it certainly should raise some eyebrows. I don't know that it will.
Well,
okay, Steve.
Well, the thing that we're talking about that's in the complaint, I haven't read the complaint, but just what you were discussing, that's the same issue that was raised by the appellate lawyer, which is that they did not disclose the agreements and the interviews with the people who were going to be witnesses against it. There's no doubt at all that they're required to make those disclosures. There's no doubt at all that failure to do so.
Oh, damn. That's a terrible.
Can we screenshot that?
That should be his new picture.
What?
You got frozen with your mouth open and looking angry.
Anyway, that's an issue that's been raised, in the appeal, and you got to see where it goes. That's all. And the question will be: I don't think anybody can seriously argue, although the prosecutor's office has argued this. I don't think they can seriously argue that they shouldn't have turned the stuff over. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense to me. It never happens in the federal prosecutions that I get involved in. They always turn over anything that might have something to do with what a witness is saying. But that doesn't necessarily mean that convictions will be reversed. So
apparently, one of the allegations against McDonald is that her nephew-in-law was working at Hulu, was involved in some of the investigations. So it looks like it's going for those pay-per-view services, Nancy, that you encourage us to have. So anyway, Alan, let's go to our last segment.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Boyle, Schmuck of the Week.
All right. Well, Steve, just because you look so relaxed and because you're kind of going in and out there and freezing up, you go first.
Mine is easy. Gregory Bovino. Somebody mentioned him already. I saw the video of him standing there with his little tear gas and telling him, and now I'm going to throw the tear gas at you all, people. And wham, he throws the tear gas. He's another guy like Trump. He should have grown up and gone to Bagley Elementary in Mumford with us. We had a lot of fun with him too.
You know, I'm starting to think that this elementary school needed, what was the guy's name? Joe Clark from New Jersey to be there in that movie Lean on Me, just kind of like bust some skulls as the president or the principal, played by Morgan Freeman in a very, very good movie. Anyway, all right, Darci.
So you have to include Drowsy Don, Doddering Don, but beyond that, I would say Billy Long, the potential ambassador to Iceland, who is now facing backlash because he claims it was a joke that Iceland would become the 52nd state when they said that. So after America takes over Greenland. So that was Billy's quote. So Billy and Don are my schmucks of the week.
Good ones. All right. Joel.
Okay. I'm going to go with the 8th Circuit. A federal judge or magistrate in Minnesota had found that ICE tactics were unlawful and that they had to stop using chemicals and violence against peaceful protesters, something that we have objectively know that they are using, right? The 8th Circuit lifted that stay with a 1-sentence order that had no attribution other than en banc, I believe. It's disgraceful to me. That's cowardly. It is inexcusable. And it is, again, why I have great pessimism in the rule of law. The higher courts aren't doing their job. The people the judges on the street in those communities know exactly what's going on. You got to rely on their factual determinations. And to overturn this just gives ICE a green light to kill. And it is remarkably maddening to see. So to the 8th Circuit, lifted that stay, you're all my schmucks. That's cowardly. If you're going to do it, explain it and sign it.
Now you see why the Federalist Society is so hot to name judges, and just ram them through because
absolutely.
They're trying to corrupt the entire system that way. So,
Barb.
I was gonna say Greg Bovino, because I love his little Nazi haircut. And he wears a little Gestapo coat.
Mm-hmm.
And he toddles around. He's a very small man in every way, and they throw food at him when he goes, into it. He tried to bring his people into restaurants, and they throw food at him. There's so little respect for him out there. Since you took him, Steve, I'm going to go with J.D. Vance, who gave a remarkably mirrored explanation as to what happened to that poor child, that 5-year-old that was used as bait to get his father. And he's just really, he is such a foul human being in every way. And it's also been, to gossip a little bit, it's been pointed out that his wife will deliver her baby almost exactly 9 months after the whole incident with JD and Erica Kirk.
That's not how pregnancy works.
No, how pregnancy works is that you go home after you've publicly made out with another woman.
Oh. I thought you were saying that somehow Erica Kirk got
it. I want Nancy to explain this to me. Go ahead, Nancy.
He's not that virile. I can't believe it happened at all. But
I would have kicked him out of. I would have kicked him out of the bedroom at the very least. So
don't know why. I don't know why do any of them stay?
Like Margot Robbie in Wolf of Wall Street. Daddy is not going to get to touch mommy for a very, very, very long time. That was a bad one. It's not one of my good ones. Anyway.
Erica Usha and the couch. What? By the way, what is the gestation period of a couch? Anyone know?
Is it Ashley? Is it Gorman? No.
Value City for him. Bill.
Yeah, my schmucks of the week are anyone connected with the Board of Peace created by Donald Trump. Amongst the other things that I object to is, you notice how many Palestinians are on that board?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's just it's so vile, but it is a representative of what Donald Trump is really all about. Getting money and having power. That's all it's about.
All right. Nancy.
Well, Steve and then Barb both stole mine, which was Greg Bovino. He was, and I thought after Steve went into his actions, I would take on his wardrobe. But then Barb took care of that. He's like the Temu George Patton, like walking around with his 5'7" which is nothing. There's nothing wrong with shorter men, but that stupid great coat and the fashy hairdo and everything else. So I'm going to let him go. And then Darci took the other guy, my second in, which was the chuckle fuck that we've apparently. And have you seen that guy? The guy looks like Rufus T. Cornpone, and we're sending him to Iceland, which is like this land of the most beautiful Vikings you have ever seen in your life. Everybody is tall and spectacular. I mean, I had one of the most demoralizing showers of my life in Iceland in a public pool next to this goddess who comes in. You have to shower naked in front of an attendant before you can go into an Icelandic pool. She comes in nude with this beautiful toddler on her hip. So I'm like, oh, so that's what your body looks like after a baby, the floating breasts and the firm stomach and everything. And then she goes out and then she kisses this man and he's got 2 more kids with him. So it's like, this is what she looked like after 3 babies. And we're sending Rufus T. Cornpone in there to be our ambassador, which is kind of perfectly fitting, but never mind. Anyway, so then
were you at the Blue Lagoon?
No, I was in a public pool which is where you should go in Iceland. Skip the Blue Lagoon, go to the public pools. You'll spend a fraction of the money and you won't see other tourists. Anyway, so I'm going to flip it on its head, and I'm just going to give a shout out to the people of Minneapolis, which I think have really, really risen to the, sorry, I'm wrapping it up, have really risen to a higher level, and they're fighting back exactly the way you should. Props to them.
Well,
I didn't mean to go off on that thing about my shower.
As Barb has noted, that Paisley Park is honoring the Minnesota general strike. So way to go, even from the brave Prince, to be there. But I think what you need really, Barb, in order to get out there and motivate the crowd is some Husker Du.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's not the replacements, because that's
yeah. No. But you need Husker Du out there. So. Especially the song makes no sense at all. Allan.
I'm going to go with the Jim Jordan at the House Judiciary that just put on a clown show with Jack Smith. I mean, the Republicans were so shameful, totally ignoring January 6th, trying to pick apart every little thing. I mean, they look so petty and so disgraceful. And Jim Jordan is just like, he's just been a creep the whole time he's been in Congress.
Agreed.
And the other one is Jared Kushner for leading this whole Gaza resurgence and stuff like that. I mean, what could be more frightening than having Jared Kushner, his dad, who I guess is reformed now, who's an ambassador after going to prison for trying to extort his brother-in-law. And I mean, it's just disgraceful.
It's almost biblical in some of these stories. I mean, they're like straight out of the Old Testament, as far as who's screwing whom. And now people are saying that the bruise on Trump's hand is actually the mark of Cain. But okay, that's enough for my sermon on this. Well,
you mean
okay,
people are saying.
they okay.
How do you make those balloons happen?
There's something you have to do.
He's not. The people are. So okay, I've got 2. One is Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who apparently blocked Gavin Newsom's panel appearance at Davos because he was so, actually probably coming from Daddy, that they were so annoyed that Gavin Newsom was sitting there smirking like Dean Martin holding a glass of whiskey during Trump's 105-minute speech. And the other one is former football coach, now Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville, who's tweeting, quote, "The enemy is inside the gates," when and with a photograph of newly elected and newly sworn in Virginia Lieutenant Governor Ghazala Hashmi, who was swearing in with her hand on a Quran. So Tuberville, not realizing that last time we checked that this is a secular country and that you can put your hand on pretty much whatever you want, including, I think, the Virginia governor or somebody putting her hand on the Constitution, not the Bible, because she said it's been hijacked by Christian nationalists. But Schmuck's, Tommy Tuberville, and of course, Hot Tub Marco Rubio. So there you go. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of. Oh,
one second. I want to add one. One of my old and dear friends, Kathy Western, was on this. She did know me when I had hair like that. I probably wasn't as good as my hair, but I want to add her as a schmuck of the week for pointing out that I'm old enough to look like this.
And Bill, I think the candle burned out long ago before your legend ever did. Well, with that, thank you for joining us for yet another episode of The Week That Was. Thank you, Bill Seikaly. Thank you, Steve Fishman. Thank you, Joel Sklar. Thank you, Barb Ingalls. Thank you, Darci McConnell. Thank you, Nancy Derringer. And thank you, with the last word always, Allan Lengel.
Drive home safely and stay warm.
Please stay warm, everybody. Please bring in your pets. Please go ahead and look out for your loved ones. Check in on them because it is really freaking cool. And like I told Alan before, watch out for those falling iguanas from the trees down in Florida.
I got a call yesterday, one of these robocalls or whatever, from the city of Detroit. Pick it up. It's, here it is. It's almost 80 degrees here. And they're going, we want to warn you that there'll be a cold spell through Sunday. Going to go, why don't you call someone who gives a shit?
Congratulations. Congratulations to the Bertram boys. Have yourself a great reunion down there. Don't be too debaucherous. And I don't want to see pictures of you sawing Florida off the rest of mainland U.S. so how it's drifting away. Take care, everybody.